The label on a bottle of champagne is a promise. It says this wine came from one exact stretch of land and nowhere else. That promise is now the single biggest reason the region is in trouble. A law was written to protect that wine. The same law may be the thing that finishes it. You are about to see why the most famous names on the shelf are in worse shape than names you have never heard of. Why a grape can survive a hotter world while the wine made from it cannot. Why the safest place to grow wine in Europe is now somewhere almost nobody would have guessed. And why one number out of a study of more than 1,000 wine regions should change how you read a label. Start here. Pick up almost any European bottle and look at the front of it. The biggest word is usually not the grape. It is a place. Rioja is a river valley. Chianti is a run of hills. Champagne is a chalky corner of northern France. Nothing on the front tells you what fruit is actually inside. Why would anyone sell a drink by naming the dirt it grew in? The answer is a French word that is never translated cleanly. Terroir. Terroir is the idea that the place makes the wine and the grape is only the messenger. Take one vine, plant it on a south-facing slope of broken limestone. Plant the same vine downhill in heavy wet clay. Same plant, same weather, same hands picking it. Two wines you would never guess were related. Centuries ago, monks in Burgundy walked those hillsides and tasted the difference plot by plot. They built low stone walls around the plots that gave the best wine. Some of those walls are still standing. And they wrote things down. In Burgundy, the date of the grape harvest has been recorded almost every year since the 1300s. It is one of the longest weather records in Europe, and it was kept by people who only wanted to know when to pick. So how do you turn a taste into a law? In the last century, Europe did exactly that. Every famous region got a rule book. A rule book is a legal document that names which grapes you may plant and draws the exact lines you may plant them inside. It goes further. It can set how you prune, how much fruit each row may carry, whether you are allowed to water the vines at all. The strictest version in Europe is called a protected designation of origin. Growing and pressing and bottling all have to happen inside the boundary. Picture a fence with a list nailed to the gate. The fence holds the land. The list names the grapes allowed inside it. That fence exists because of fraud. A century ago, growers in southern France took to the streets because merchants were selling cheap blends under famous names. The fence fixed that. It made a grower's hillside worth more than the barrels it filled. The gap it created is easy to feel. Two neighbors can farm the same soil under the same sky. One sits inside the line on the map, and one sits just outside it. Same grapes in the ground. The bottle from inside the line can sell for several times the price of the bottle from outside. And once a name is worth money, the ranking freezes. A list of Bordeaux estates drawn up for a world fair in the 1850s still shapes prices today. You might be thinking that a fence sounds like a strange thing to complain about. You would be right. It saved thousands of small growers from being copied out of existence. That is exactly why nobody noticed the problem sitting underneath it. A fence works on people. What happens when the thing crossing it is the weather? Now go back to that list of harvest dates. Across much of Europe, picking now starts 2 or 3 weeks earlier than it did in your grandparents' time. Pull a red from the 1970s and a red from last year. The old one often sits 2 full % lower in alcohol. That is not a change in fashion. That is sugar arriving faster in warmer summers. Warmth is not a simple enemy here. Vines love sun, up to a point, because every grape variety has a ceiling. The ceiling is the level of heat above which the fruit stops behaving. Sugar races ahead. Acidity falls away. The flavors that need time never arrive. The wine still gets made. It just comes out heavy and soft and vague. The vine does not die. That is the part people get wrong. It keeps growing happily. It simply stops making the wine the name on the label promised. Here is something you can feel yourself. Stand in a vineyard on an August night and put a hand flat on the ground. If the ground is still warm at midnight, the grapes never really rest. Cool nights hold color and acid and aroma inside the fruit. Warm nights quietly burn them off. Which is why growers argue about the temperature at 3 in the morning more than the temperature at noon. Some grapes carry a high ceiling. Grenache shrugs off heat that would ruin something else. Pinot Noir has one of the lowest ceilings in the wine world. In Burgundy, it is already up on its toes, which is where the fence and the ceiling meet. A grower watching the heat climb has 3 obvious moves. Swap the grape, move uphill, water the vines. The rulebook blocks all 3. Burgundy and Champagne are built on Pinot Noir. If that grape stops performing there, no substitute would legally qualify for the name. You could plant something that thrives in the new heat. You just could not call the result Champagne. And the obvious answer is sitting right there. Grow it somewhere colder. England is already making sparkling wine on chalk, much like the chalk under Champagne. That works fine for the wine. It does nothing for a region whose whole economy is bolted to a name it cannot carry with it. If you enjoy stories where the villain turns out to be the thing everyone assumed was the protection, hit subscribe. We dig up a new one every week. Now back to the part growers only discuss in private. If the fence cannot move, can the paperwork? It can. Bordeaux did something quietly radical a few years ago. It added new grape varieties to its approved list and planted them out in trial rows. One Hungarian region redefined its product categories. A Spanish region updated the chemical limits its wine has to meet. These are not revolutions. They are a few lines edited in a legal document. There are smaller moves too. Leave more leaves on to shade the fruit. Plant grass between the rows. Prune later, so ripening lands in cooler weeks. Those tricks buy time. They do not buy a new grape. Which raises the obvious objection. If the rules can be rewritten, why is anyone worried? Because paperwork is the fast part. Amending a rulebook takes years of committee work. Replanting a vineyard takes far longer than that. A vine you put in the ground today gives serious fruit in 3 or 4 years and then works for decades. You are not choosing this season's crop. You are betting on the weather of 2060. And there is a second cost that never appears on the label. Call it the toolkit. It is everything a region can reach for when the climate stops cooperating. Cool land higher up inside the boundary. Water. Machines. A bank willing to lend. Young people who still want the work. 2 regions can face identical warming and end up in completely different places. One has mountains to climb into. The other has a flat plain and a village where the average age keeps rising. And wine is not alone. Coffee and olives and cocoa are being pushed around the map by the same heat. Wine is just the crop we watch most obsessively, which turns these vineyards into an early warning system for everything else Europe grows. So the real question was never which region gets hottest. Which European wine region is actually in the most danger? A team of researchers decided to stop guessing and count. They took every wine region in the European Union carrying that strictest protected label. 1085 of them. Open a bottle from a different one of those regions every night, and you would be drinking for 3 years straight. About a third of them sit in Italy. Almost another third sit in France. Per every single region, they measured 3 things. How hard the local climate is set to change, how close the approved grapes already sit to their ceiling, and how deep the toolkit goes. The future they modeled is a world where temperatures climb by up to 4 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. 4 degrees is roughly the distance between northern France and the Mediterranean coast. Slide that gap across the map and regions stop recognizing themselves. The first surprise is where the climate shifts hardest. Not the sun-baked coasts, the mountain interiors of Romania and Croatia and Bulgaria and Hungary and inland Italy. The second surprise is the ceiling. Southern Europe scores worst because its approved grapes already grow near the top of their range. But Champagne sits high on that list too. It is cool and it is famous and it leans on very few grapes. A short list of permitted varieties is a low ceiling no matter how cold the mornings are. The third measurement produced the results nobody would have predicted. The country with the most regions in the top quarter for adaptation is one most people could not place on a wine map: Slovenia. Around 65% of its wine regions land in that top group. Italy manages 14%. France comes in under 10%. Spain shows the strangest split of all. Its regions score well on money and badly on almost everything else. Cash on its own does not buy you a cooler hillside inside a fence that cannot move. Put all three together, and about 1 in 20 regions falls into the worst group of all. Line up 100 protected wine names and 5 of them are already in serious trouble. Southern Black Sea in Bulgaria, Hajos Bahia in Hungary, Sierra de Salamanca in Spain, Trebbiano d'Abruzzo and Lambrusco Mantovano in Italy. Most people have never seen those names on a shelf. Here is the part that should bother a wine drinker. The next band down holds Rioja, Alentejo, Côte de Provence, the Prosecco hills of Conegliano Valdobbiadene. Those are the bottles filling the shelf you walk past every week. And the safest regions in Europe? Cool ones, high ones, places with a shorter history of being famous. Rheinhessen in Germany, Alsace and the Côtes d'Auvergne in France, Alto Adige up in the Italian Alps, and sparkling wine from Belgium. A few of them may even gain a little at first. Riper fruit and less disease in drier air. But that gain fades fast, and it runs into the same fence as everyone else. There is one more thing hiding in all of this. European rule books list more than 1,000 grape varieties between them. Detailed scientific knowledge covers only a sliver of the world's vines, somewhere around 1%. Europe is sitting on a cellar of forgotten grapes, and almost nobody has measured what they can take. The vines will be fine. Vines are stubborn things. What is fragile here is a sentence, the one printed on the front of the bottle. We built the fence to protect a taste, but a taste was never a fixed object. It was always a conversation between a plant and a place. Both sides are moving now, and anything you protect by freezing it into law stays safe only while the world holds still. So turn a bottle around tonight and read the place name on the front. It is not a description. It is a promise about a climate, and nobody ever asked the climate to sign it.